Are you working on your author career but struggling to get that first book published? Does the goal of being an author seem too lofty? Or thoughts of having multiple books and making a full-time living are as fantastical as living in Cinderella's castle? Welcome to Discovered Wordsmiths, a podcast where aspiring authors can be heard. Join Stephen Schneider as he finds and talks to authors you may not know, but authors that have gotten their foot on the author career path. Hear what they've done to get there and where they want to go now. Settle back. It's time for a bit of inspiration and advice. Come listen to today's Discovered Wordsmith.
Transition into some other stuff. So let's move on to talking the craft and business aspect of the books. So you've written one book and you're working on another and some short stories. What are you doing different now than what you did clear back at the beginning?
I have a much kind of clearer vision of what my writing style is and where I'm trying to go. I feel like your first book is the hardest because you're not just writing your story. You are developing your voice and how you tell stories and how you approach, fleshing out a narrative. Are you the kind of writer that's just quick and to the point? Are you the kind of writer that likes to meander? I mean, there's no real wrong way to do it. Every reader has their different tastes. And, one person who might think something is overly bloated and self-indulgent, the next person will be like, oh, it was amazing and it was immersive. And so it's, you don't have to try to be anything you're not. You just kind of have to discover who you are and bring it out from that perspective.
Nice. Okay.
So,
what software and services do you like to use? Whether it's writing or marketing or whatever.
So everything's on Microsoft Word, or my short stories, I write them on my phone, just using my Apple Notes program. And I just, because I'm in the phase right now where I'm, always trying to get my kids to go to bed, and sometimes they fight me on it. And so what I'll do is I'll just sit usually my daughter, I'll sit next to her. And, if I try to leave, she's like, Dada, don't leave it. I'm like, it's okay, kid. I'll sit right here. And I'll sit there and I'll just write for 15 minutes and just work on my next short story. And I got a couple I usually have like one or two on my phone I'm working on, and then one or two on my computer. Like after I get like the first draft on my phone, I'll dump it into my computer, and then I'll start developing it on my computer when I have time. But then I have other ones on my phone that I'm working on at any given time. So, you'll get to steal 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there. And just, kind of peck away at it as time permits.
Right.
So it's I don't have any fancy writing software. I don't have any fancy editing software. I'm old school. I just keep kneading the dough until I feel like it's finished. And then when I want to actually put something out into the world, I have an editing service that I'll use and, do story editing, copy editing, that whole thing. And I'll let the pros put their eyes on it, and then I'll go through it and I'll fix it that way, and then I'll put it out.
Got it.
So I always feel like, and again, taking it back to music, right? Right now I just got a bunch of demo tapes. I'm not going to send it out into the world until it's mixed and mastered.
Right. Got it. So what are you doing to market your book?
Well, I hooked up with Creative Edge. They're a publicity agency. It's an amazing guy named Mickey who really is kind of helping me, take what I understand about how to push something forward. Because again, I know how to try to publicize a band, but he's kind of showing me what works and what doesn't in the world of books. And so he's really been very helpful on that. It's something like a kind of a Sherpa, if you will, helping me climb the mountain. And I would definitely say find someone that knows what they're doing, because you probably don't. And you can wing it, but 999 times out of 1,000, you're not going to go anywhere with it. You're just going to spin your wheels. So
right.
Find someone out there who knows what they're doing, follow their advice, follow their lead, and start building your machine.
There you go. So for a topic of discussion, you suggested that we talk about, for new authors, once you have a book out, what to do next, what to keep doing and keep going on. So what brought that topic to your mind, and more particularly, what are you doing after your first book now?
So I brought that topic because when we got the introductory email and just kind of talking about like, hey, what are we going to talk about and what kind of topics would make sense to you within the context of authorship, and is particularly like undiscovered authors and everything. Uh, I'm still getting my bearings on all this, and so I feel like it'd be a good topic to talk about because I'm right there in the middle of the eye of the storm on it. I'm still finding my way, and um, it's really easy to get overwhelmed trying to get other people to read your book. And I feel like there's kind of this expectation that, oh, well, you haven't made it if you don't have a publishing deal, or you haven't made it if you haven't become like an Amazon #1 bestseller, or you haven't made it. Like the same thing I experienced with music. And there was always that next level that you felt like you weren't legit until you got to. And
Right.
it's a trap. It is absolutely a trap. Do you write? Yes or no? Yes, you are a writer.
Yes.
Great. Been established. And you don't have to explain yourself to anybody. So find what works for you. Find what works within the context of your life. Does it suit you or does it not? You don't have to keep up with the Joneses in this world. You should do this for the love of it, for the creative process. And if you make a living on it, great. And if you
Right.
don't, fine.
So when you released your book, did you have a whole plan? Step, you were doing this, you were doing this, and then you released it and all this marketing, or did you kind of just put it up and then did other things to market it afterwards?
Oh, mark it afterwards. So I released my book like 3 weeks after my son was born. So right out the gate, I couldn't really do much of anything because I was working and I was taking care of this newborn and a toddler and not sleeping at all. And again, I always try to take my own advice. Don't overwhelm yourself. If it's not fun, if you're not enjoying the process, don't do it. And so for the first 6 months of my book being out, the only people that about it and read it were people that knew me personally.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, now that my child is not just up all night every night and that my brain is functioning to at least 50% capacity, now I'll start. So then I started hooking up with some other people in the industry and just kind of, and again, it's really tough with COVID, right? Because a lot of stuff was closed down, that like a lot of these conventions that you would go and make some connections
Right.
weren't available. And so I have a lot of, just by the nature of just being in music and all those other things, I have a lot of very creative friends, and some of them do this professionally. And so I was able to reach out to my friends and contacts and start, kind of getting pointed in the right direction to follow. And that's how I was introduced to Mickey. Was my dear friend Jen Lieberman, who is a wonderful
I've talked
writer.
to her.
Yeah, she used to come see my band all the time.
Nice.
Yeah, we were both in that kind of LA scene there for a while, and so you just meet really. It's cool when you meet other creative people, and especially when you think they're when they're actually talented, and it's not just like, yeah, they're my friend, but when they're actually good at what they do. And so yeah, she kind of helped me, and that's what you do. You meet other people, you find people that kindred spirits and people you like working with, and you just kind of keep growing from there. And
So,
that's
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was like, and that's just kind of the plan. Like my website's going to be coming out soon, but it's out when it's out.
Right.
I've got more short stories in the can ready to go, but when it's time, it's time. No rush.
So
Do it.
there's various advice out there that if you have one book but it's part of a series, hang on to it until you get books 2 and 3 done, then release them all, or release them really quick and write them really quick. You really didn't follow that, but you did choose a publicist, which is something people are like, oh, I'm not going to choose a publicist because it's a waste of money and I won't get anything out of it. So what made you want to pick the route you did, I guess?
Um, so I think that there's different ways of coming across, right? You have different objectives. Some people, they come in and they're like, I need to make money doing this. This is my thing. And like that, totally respect that. If you can make money doing it, great. Your plan will be different. There's it's a choose your own adventure. Eh. Book pun. So if you want to make money right away and everything, then there's a path to take towards that. For me, I'm trying to really establish myself as an author And so the route I'm taking is I worked on this book for a very long time. I was not going to sit on it for another 5 years while I hammered away at this other. No, if something's done and I feel like it's done, I'm going to put it out. And then I'm going to, like I said, the next batch will be short stories, and then the thing after that will probably be the part two. And I'm just trying to kind of just get my writing out there at its own pace. And I feel like for my purposes, I don't need to write for a living. I own my own business. I'm not going to pay my mortgage selling books, right? Or at least not right now. Right now, I'm just trying to establish myself and kind of get this rolling. And so I'm fortunate in that I'm coming up from the position like I enjoy writing. I it's something I do when I have the spare time. I mean, don't remember the last time I played a video game. You know what I mean? It's like this is what I do with my spare time. And and when you're building a business, you can expect to lose money for the first 3 years. So I'm coming out here. I'm putting it out there. I'm you know getting readers where I can, and I'm just developing at my own speed.
Okay.
And I can
So,
and I have the luxury of doing that.
so you you're working on book two, and you got a publicist. What about somebody that say, well, why don't you just not get a publicist and wait till you get the second book done? It'd be stronger. Or did you find that you're getting momentum with what Mickey's doing for you?
Um,
Just some thoughts.
so it's important to know people who know what you need to be doing. And it's regardless of what medium you created, or even in just business and in life in general, for professional purposes, it's good to learn from people who are in the middle of it. And with Mickey, the great thing is that he's a publicist, and I'm learning how this whole world of authorship works. It's a whole new brave world because it is very unlike the way music works. In music, you can just drop singles, you keep playing shows. There's a lot of ways for you to interact and build your audience. With books, it's like I got this novel that I've worked on for years, and now here it is, and then what? Wait, I'll see you in a couple more years. I don't know. So this is this whole process. I'm learning a lot about it, and it's not just about reaching new people for them to be aware of my book or be aware of what I'm doing or who I am, which is definitely important. But it's also just taking those steps one at a time to just kind of make yourself in a place where you're actually doing it. You're in it. You're doing your podcast. You're putting your stories out there. You're building what your business, your machine, your whatever you want to call it. It doesn't happen all at once, and I think that it depends on what kind of level of progression you're comfortable with, either faster or slower. But this is the one that makes sense to me. And it might not work for everybody, but I definitely think that if you are someone that isn't a writer full time and you're paying your bills that way, then yeah, take that tack. Really go out there and try to get what you're doing out there. Get a publicist, put your name out there, and start building your following.
And I think that's a very important thing for people to think about and realize. Everybody has slightly different goals, along with everybody has slightly different situations. You might maybe, okay, let's just suppose that I lost my job and I've got a severance that'll last me for 3 months or whatever. So I sit down and I write every day and I'm churning out 3 books and bam, they're done. Now I can go get another job, or if these books do well, I could just keep writing. So to me, I'd want to put everything I could into getting those books out there and getting, as many fans and all that. Whereas like you, I've got a job, I've got a family. The books are almost a hobby that I want to do well. So I don't have a lot of time myself to do a lot of the marketing. I get a publicist to help with some of that. You could probably also think about if you wanted to get someone to do ads or something like that. I want to get it out there, but I'm not trying to hit US bestseller today. It's again, people need to define their goals with what their writing can accomplish.
And then you need to manage your expectations.
Yeah.
It's because I mean I remember, and again going back to music again, I remember you always have these thoughts of, oh well, if I just get this out there and then it'll be huge and will be the next big thing, it'll be huge. Like, look, a lot of people are trying to do what you're doing
Right.
to varying degrees of success, and it's okay to not be the next gigantic thing, because odds are you're not going to be J.K. Rowling, and that's fine. You know, it's okay to build your following organically and to take it one step at a time. You don't have to rush with this big marketing plan and this blitz and these ads and this and da 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 da. Always keep your eye on the prize, which is your writing. Develop yourself as a writer. Keep writing. Don't stop writing. Never let the advertising and marketing and that whole side of it overshadow the writing. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I remember back in my band days, you could tell the bands who spent more time pumping their shows than in the practice room, you know? And so if you're out there and you start getting some people start noticing you, but the thing you're putting out there is terrible,
Right.
well then what's the point?
Yeah. Absolutely. I pointed out to my kids, I tried to get them to understand with music that you could have a band, two bands play the exact same song, and one of them will have energy and life and it just gets you, and the other one's just kind of flat and dead. And that is something you cannot teach. That's something you can't understand unless you just hear it and you do it. And writing's kind of the same way. You know, people that just, you get a lot of people that try and copy the big sellers, but they're not really into it, and the words show it. And I think people feel that, and it's just it's a different. You have to feel it, you know.
Yeah. And you have to be true to yourself and your abilities and what kind of stories you want to tell and how you want to tell them. And again, there's no right or wrong way. You can be a writer and only write novellas or
Yeah,
novelettes or short stories. You don't have to, only be someone that releases proper novels. I mean, you just tell the story as the story needs to be told. Tell it to the best of your ability, and then go get someone else with better eyes than yours to tell you where you're wrong. Because you're never
true.
going to get any better if you're not interacting with other people. You know,
Yes,
we
absolutely.
all think we all think we're great at everything we do, and we're not. That's not always the case, and sometimes you need that honest outside opinion that's not your friend or family member to say these are the weaknesses, this is how you can fix it, and you just keep that process, and you just keep doing it. You keep doing it over and over and over again. There was my wife is very into theater, and she was always doing shows and musical theater and musicals and the like. And we watched this movie called Tick Tick Boom, and
Yep.
it's yeah. What's the name of the guy who wrote Rent?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, that guy. So it follows him and this whole story. Whole time he was trying to get his first show out into the world and birthed, and it's frustrating, and the creative process is driving him crazy. And it's affecting his relationships and his friendships and his girlfriend and everything. And he finally gets it done, and he gets it out there, and he gets to perform it in front of the powers that be, and they love it. But then it's just, okay, what's next? And that will destroy a lot of people. But
Right.
if you're really in it because you love to do it, you're going to pick yourself up and you're going to keep going, and you're going to keep putting you're going to keep rolling forward and doing your next play or your next film or your next book or your next album or whatever that is.
Yeah. I,
Um,
I know, we're talking about first books, the second books and beyond. uh, the first thing I wrote, I was like everybody else. Oh my gosh, this is so good. And then the editor got a hold of it and I reread it. And I'm like, wow, this is so bad. So I moved on and wrote something else. And, you forget there are a lot of bands, using the music analogy, that they don't hit their stride till album 3 or album 4, that their first album may not have any real hits on it.
right.
But they get all their big stuff in album 3 and then album 6 again, or it's
Yeah.
even Bon Jovi. The first two albums were not as big as Slippery When Wet,
Right.
So
You have to figure out what your style is first. You
right,
have to know what you are.
yeah,
And then you can start tweaking with the formula as you get feedback.
yeah.
But
For me, I found that, and this is looking in hindsight. If I could go back and tell myself, it's like, don't try so hard to make that first book absolutely perfect and everything and blah blah blah. Just write it, put it down, then go write something else. Write a lot of short stories, get the practice in, and forget about them. Let them sit. You can go back to them and write something else, because you'll find that each new project you get is excited for. That you're like, oh, this is the one. This is the best one ever. Oh no, I really like this one. And then you get better, and you're like, yeah, those old ones aren't as good. And I think that's way more helpful moving on through a career for most people than just focusing on that one book and marketing it and rewriting it and everything. That's my
right.
opinion.
No, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. You have to always be moving forward. You always have to be creating. You always have to be working on that next thing. And I think, taking it back to Mickey again, he was always saying, like, people forget you after a year. And I'm like, hey, that's totally fine. It's again, and I think that a lot of that also is if you're a full time writer, right? I told
Right.
him, I said, I might be an every other year guy, just letting you know. Um, but you should never stop writing. You should whatever your creative niche is, you should never stop doing it. You're always doing it. You're always going to get better. Put the hours in, put the work in, and then take the feedback, even like especially the negative stuff. And some negative feedback is not useful at all, right? It's not my genre. Okay, well that doesn't help me. But sometimes people can maybe point out something actually, useful, and you're just like, oh, okay, maybe I need to develop, how my descriptors and move beyond certain words I'm using or leaning on too much, or are there certain traps I'm following in? Um, are my characters one dimensional? Is my universe one dimensional? Take that feedback and keep working, because we're not perfect and we're never going to be, we're always, God willing, we're always developing and growing and becoming a better version of what we're able to do.
Right.
And yeah, so don't stop, keep going. And I would, maybe I'm wrong because I'm just winging it like the rest of us, right? But if something's done, put it out. Just put it out, get it out there, and then do the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can,
It's
yeah.
amazing how you forget the stuff that you were so excited about, because it really is. You've heard other authors do interviews, and someone that has a ton of books like Kuntz or King or whatever, and they're like, yeah, was that this character in this book, and they totally forget their own books. And you've got fans going, how could you forget that? I've read that book 50 million times. Yeah, when you go over it, writing it over and over, it really does leave your brain after you get it out.
Oh
You
yeah,
move on.
absolutely. I mean, I after this book, I put this book out, and I held my actual first novel as a physical thing in my hand, and it's still sitting on my shelf. I haven't opened it to read it because I read it so many
Right,
times. So, like my albums I've put out, I don't listen to them.
right.
They were of that time in my life, and I went through the ringer with them. But then after, once it's done, you're like, thank God, next thing, please.
Yeah, I picked up some of the old music, played it. I'm like, wow, that song kind of sucked. Why'd we ever do that one?
Yeah, exactly. But then you can say, hey, maybe we can revamp it. Maybe we can do something different with it,
Yeah,
update it a little bit. My
yeah,
favorite band in the world is it's Tool. Some of you might know who the band
oh
Tool
yeah,
is, might
great
not.
videos.
If you're into progressive metal, they just did a 10-minute long version of their song Opiate from their first EP. And they went back around and they're like redid it. And yeah, there's no rule saying that you can't revisit your older work. There's no rule saying that you can't do an updated version of something you've done before. There's no rules. Do what you
Yeah,
want. Be
yeah.
creative. Make it happen.
What was Stephanie Myers or whatever with the Twilight? She like rewrote her whole first book from a totally different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Can we take a quick pause?
yeah, actually, I think we're about done.
Oh,
I
okay.
was just going to ask, do you have any advice for new readers or new authors before we go?
Um, enjoy the process.
There you
Love
go.
what you're doing. Enjoy it. If you're not having fun writing, then forget about everything else. Find a new hobby. Find a new line of work.
Absolutely.
first and foremost, enjoy what you do. Because if you don't, you are wasting your life.
Yep. Music or books.
Music, books, your job, whatever. Find a way to be fulfilled in your life. And obviously that not everyone can get there, but shoot, go for it.
I agree. All right. Well, Paul, I appreciate the time. It's been great talking to you. And I wish you luck on your book. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. And hey, let me leave you with one of my dad jokes.
Oh, there we go. Yes, a good dad joke.
Okay, I got a couple. These are all workplace appropriate. People go, "Hey, Paul, how come you only tell dad jokes?" And I'm like, I don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Okay. How do you air out your house in Ecuador?
Not sure.
You open an Equa window.
Ah, that's a good one. I love it. All right, Paul, you have a great evening, afternoon.
Hey.
Thank you.
All right, Stephen, take care. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Discovered Wordsmiths. Come back next week and listen to another author discuss the road they've traveled, and maybe, sometime in the near future, it might be you.